Okay. Yeah. Look at me out here killing it today. Actually getting everything to work. That's amazing. It doesn't usually go this well. All right. Let's see. Man, I want to do a real quick big shout out to Sentinel, Entorn, Aegis, Games Made for You, Pete G1, and a couple other folks that I can't pronounce because their Twitch names are a little bit wonky. Man, got a lot of follows yesterday thanks to the joint stream I did with Dankless, and I'm just okay, cool. We got both the chats up, so yeah, let's make sure I've got some audio working. I do, perfect. Thanks to the joint stream with Dankless, a lot of followers yesterday, so that's good. Really appreciate the community kind of pooling together and realizing that we're all just trying to make the community a better place. So that's awesome. But before we really dig into this, let's talk about what we're actually here for. And let's fix my screen. Bam. Can we actually see? Yeah. That is really zoomed in. All right. So, we'll figure that out if we need to. But we're going to go over some Sisters of Battle rules today. We're going to go over some Admech rules today. Sisters look sick. Thank you, Zach. I haven't looked at them, so don't spoil anything for me, you gorgeous bastard. I would like to get my first reaction. I already had to tell Sam, please don't ruin this for me. And at least I know, like, going into this edition, the three armies I play, right? Like Orcs first, Drukhari second, Sisters third. Admech is one that I dabble with, but I don't really put on the table because there's a lot of feel bads with that army for me. Like, I want my opponent to have fun, and I've just learned that, like, it's such a weird army that if you really know it and you know your rules and you know how to play well, it's just not a fun interaction, so it doesn't get put on the table a lot. So we are going to look at Sisters first. Hopefully, I don't need to fix whatever's going on. But before we dig in, if you're on YouTube, make sure you say hi to everybody on Twitch. If you're on Twitch, make sure you say hi to everybody on YouTube. Let's get some friendly cross-platform hellos going. Gray Knights, pretty cringe. We're not looking at that. What up, Sam? Yeah. Guard, also, we may, depending on what time looks like, we may look at some guard stuff. Omni Panda, what's up? Alan, my man. We're going to dig into some AdMech today. Hell yeah. And let's start with, my favorite. These very, very gorgeous, gorgeous ladies, the Sisters of Battle. All right, so let's start with their army rule, which is the Acts of Faith. We'll zoom that in so everybody can see a little bit better. Most of you probably have already read through this, it sounds like. If your army faction is Adeptus Sororitas, each unit from your army with this ability can perform one act of faith per phase. This is done using miracle dice. If your army faction, blah, 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 you gain one miracle dice at the start of each turn, and then each time a sister's unit is destroyed. So it's a little bit different interaction than it used to be, and there might be some units that give you some bonus as well as enhancements and such. And then each time you gain a miracle dice, roll 1d6. That is the value of your miracle dice. So it sounds like the interactions are basically the same in terms of how they are used. Before making a die roll for a model in your unit with the Acts of Faith, you can have one or more if you dice. Yeah, and miracle dice also, and I saw how many the Eldar got. I kind of figured Sisters were going to have a bunch also. If it involves more than one dice, i.e. a charge roll or battle shock test, only a single die can be substituted. So that's a bit of a nerf, but I'm not really surprised. There were a lot of people who got the stinky, getting those 12-inch automatic deep strike charges and stuff. So I get it. This counts as an unmodified die roll of that value for all rules purposes. Each miracle. So that's also important to note. It will pop things like lethal hits or sustained hits. Or if it's a wound roll and you have devastating wounds, right? Each miracle dice can only be selected for substitution once. Once all miracle dice substitutions have been made. It was, but it's one of those where your melee units and sisters specifically, there's no staying power, so being able to guarantee that charge was very important. So we'll have to see how it differs now, because like yeah, they have a 3-up save, but T3 1 wound, like they're still just getting shredded. So it's one of those where you almost needed that guaranteed charge, otherwise you were just picking them up, because sisters to me are one of the few Imperium armies. They're probably the only one that really interacts a lot like a Xenos army, in that you have to understand the trading game very well, kind of like how Eldar are. And if you don't know the trading game, you're going to kind of struggle with this army. Each miracle dice, blah, blah, blah. Each remove from the pool. Yep, 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 yep. Okay, so you can use it for an advance roll, battle shock test, charge roll, damage roll, hit roll, saving throw, wound roll. So what you can use pretty much has stayed the same, it looks like. And since there's no I'm trying to think of the word, deny the witch tests, you don't have to worry about those anyway. Blood of Martyrs is the detachment rule for the index, and each time a Sororitas model from your army makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll if that model's unit is below starting strength, add 1 to the wound roll if it is below half strength as well. If a unit has a starting strength of okay, so basically this is I can't think of the actual faction. It is just the Martyred Lady, if I remember right, is the chapter or whatever it's called for sisters. So if you're under starting strength, which means if it's a unit, right? So if it's a full squad of sisters, if you lose 1 model, you add 1 to the hit roll. And then if you're under half strength, you add 1 to the wound roll as well. And then if it's a character, right, or a single model unit, you add 1 to the hit roll if you take any wounds at all. But then if you're under half your wounds, you'll add 1 to the wound roll. So that's actually really powerful. It's gonna make your sisters models like it's gonna reward you for taking bigger units, because you're gonna want them to stay on the table a little bit longer to help them. Yes, it is new. I did notice that, Sam. They had something else, but I forget what. Maybe it was a miracle die interaction. But yeah, absolutely. And so and I don't know what any of the data sheets are, but let's talk about the Exorcist tank, right? If it takes 1 damage, it's +1 to its hit rolls. Now it's -1 to its ballistic skill if it has indirect fire. Again, I don't know, I haven't looked, but if we assume it has indirect fire, it's gonna take -1 to its ballistic skill, but then it's going to get +1 to its hit roll if it's taken any damage. So if it's indirect shooting, you're still going to hit on 3s as long as it's taking at least 1 point of damage. So it's just an interesting thing to keep in mind when you're building your lists. And then in addition to that, you're going to have, if it's below half strength, +1 to wound, and it doesn't specify for shooting either. So like your Repentia are going to get +1 to hit if they've taken if they've lost a model. And we're going to dig into a few data sheets. We're not going to look at them all because there's a lot here, but there's a few I really wanted to climb into, and there's some guns I wanted to look at. I've been told that Celestine is one I need to look at, but that is an exceptionally good index rule, so I'm really happy to see that. Like I said, I knew of the 3 armies that I predominantly play, one of them was at least going to look pretty good. Drukhari look very fun, but Sisters just look good. Stratagems, we're just gonna speed through these, see if there's anything in here that looks like a standout, but we're not gonna read them all individually. Divine Intervention, use it in any phase. When a unit from your army was just destroyed, you can use this stratagem even. Okay, discard. Oh, okay, so you just get to revive a character, 1 Sororitas character unit. Once it's destroyed, you discard 1 to 3 miracle dice at the end of the phase. Set the last model from your unit back up on the battlefield as close as possible, not within engagement range of enemy models, and it's got a number of wounds equal to the number of miracle dice you discarded. So it doesn't matter what the value is. If you have 3 1s for miracle dice, you can just discard 3 1s and your character will come back with 3 wounds. And you cannot select Saint Celestine as the target of this stratagem. I'm not surprised. My brain was immediately like, Celestine coming back, let's go. So I'm not surprised that there's a big no stamp immediately on the restrictions there. And then you can only target each character once with that stratagem. And again, that makes sense. Light of the Emperor. Once Roritas unit from your star, blah, 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 below starting strength for the purposes of this stratagem. If a unit, yeah. Until the end of your turn, your units can ignore any or all modifiers to its characteristics. Oh, so Light of the Emperor is actually pretty good. You pick one unit, and it's used in your command phase, and then until the end of your turn, they can ignore any or all modifiers to its characteristics and or to any roll or test made excluding saving throws. So actually that's interesting because like we were talking on the Dark Angel stream last night with Bailey, right? And one of the things that was brought up was what is it? I think the one of the jets has a bomb, and then that bomb can just set your movement to 0. I don't remember if it sets your movement to 0 or if it prohibits you from moving. But if it sets your movement to 0, you could use Light of the Emperor to ignore that. Obviously, if it says you can't move, then it doesn't matter. But I know one of them was like you cut your movement in half and you could ignore that. So again, very good. That is a pretty solid strat to help keep your models interacting the way you want them to. +1 to wound. So again, that's I'm glad that stayed and is just transitioning the +1 to wound because again they don't have a lot of high strength fighting, so the +1 to wound is important. Spirit of the Martyr, end of phase. So there's a fight on death here, and I've seen a lot of fight on deaths in the indexes that I've seen. I believe World Eaters have it, Orcs have it, Sisters have it. Space Marines have some kind of interaction with it, whether it's baked into a datasheet or a strat, I can't remember. But it's interesting that a lot of these armies just have it, and I'm not opposed to it. And I'm not opposed to them acting differently. So, like, this one is 2 CP and you fight on death, whereas one of them was 1 CP and on a 3-up you fight on death. So, I think those are solid, comparable stratagems. One's guaranteed, but it costs twice as much. The other one, you have a 66% chance of it happening, and it's only 1 CP. I think that's a reasonable sideways move, if that makes sense. And we get to shoot on death. So when in your opponent's shooting phase, just after the enemy unit has resolved its attacks, one Sororitas unit from your army that had one or more of its models destroyed as a result of the attacking unit's attacks, it has to be used in your opponent's. Yeah, right. Nothing like being able to use my so sisters have 2 strats that let them interact in the opponent's turn and just kind of punish you for killing them, right? And this is 1 CP and you can shoot as if it were your shooting phase, but you must target only that enemy unit when doing so and can only do so if that enemy unit is an eligible target. But that's actually really good. Again, if you've got like a unit of retributors that are getting shot off the table by something and you need to counter shoot, like that is very good. And again, it keeps your models interacting in both turns. So that is a good thing. And I'm sure there is. Like, the one thing I saw with Marines is there's a lot of, like, you can use this strat for 0 CP, even if it's already been used, like the captain ability. So I assume there's going to be some interactions like that for sisters, like with their Cannon S. Suffering and Sacrifice. All right, we don't need to go over that one too much. Enhancements I do want to look at. Adeptus. So you can give this to a character, and then when the character dies, you gain a D3 Miracle Dice. I don't think it's bad. I don't know that I'd want it because the way I play Sisters, I don't want my characters dying. I want them killing. So that's one of those where, sure, it's kind of nice to get an additional D3 dice, but I'd rather have something that makes my Cannon S more killy, for example. Add 1 to the attack. Here we go. Add 1 to the attack, strength, and damage characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons. If the bearer has lost 1 or more wounds, add 2 to the attack, strength, and damage characteristic. So like, and I think this was the relic I usually gave the Canoness anyway, because I think it's like a relic blessed blade, and that's really good. You're right. Yeah, Sam. Heck yeah, man. It's really good. Because if you give her a plasma weapon, you can just supercharge that thing and try to fish that damage out constantly. So it's one of those where you can try to do things to force that interaction. Litanies of Faith, model only. At the end of your command phase, if the bearer's on the battlefield, you can reroll 1 miracle die from your miracle dice pool and return it to the pool. If they've lost 1 or more wounds or is leading a unit that is below half strength, you can reroll up to 3. So, and again, this is one I would probably take. Litanies of Faith. So you put it on a character. That character allows you to reroll 1 miracle die in your command phase. And then if your character has lost any wounds or is in a unit that is below half strength, you can reroll 3 dice instead. So being able to manipulate those miracle dice is very good, and it's definitely a thing you are gonna want as a sisters player. So I see that one being taken a lot, unless of course like the epic heroes are just so good that you don't need to take regular ones. Canoness or Palatine, model only. Each time an attack goes, that's actually really funny, and I'd have to like see how the Canoness and the Palatine interact, whether or not it's worth to put that on them. All right, Morven Vol, we'll take a look at her. I have not typically played her. Let me see how that looks on your guys' side so I know if I need to zoom it out a bit. I think I do. That should look a little bit better for you guys in just a second. There we go. I have not played her a ton. She's very good, right, in 9th edition. I just prefer just a regular Canoness because it's funny. But let's take a look at her data sheet. She is movement 8. Is she still a vehicle? She is. I love that she's the same toughness as Gaskell. Not that I'm salty about it, but I might be a little bit. She moves 8 inches, T6, 2 up save, 8 wounds, 6 up leadership, 2 OC. So looks like pretty standard for this type of interaction for character. Her ranged weapons, Fidelis has sustained hits, which is 3 attacks, strength 6, neg 1, 2 damage, which I don't think that's actually changed a ton. It might have had an AP reduction, I don't know. But like is solid. And with sustained hits, you can use a miracle die so you can get additional hits if you need to. The Paragon missile launcher, you have 2 profiles. You can either do 2 shots at 9 neg 2 d6 damage or 2d6 shots with blast at 401. So again, very standard loadout. I don't know that it's changed much. You get the crack shots or you get the frag shots, pretty basic. Now her melee, on the other hand, she's got the strike, which gives you 5 attacks at strength 8, -2, 3 damage. The strength is kind of rough, right? Strength 8, so she's not like hacking up vehicles, although we'll see what her other abilities are. But she's not hacking up vehicles the way she could in 9th. Although with devastating wounds, you can again use those miracle dice to try to put mortal wounds on things. And then the Lance of Illumination is the sweep. So again, you've got a really good just like chaff profile. Like if you smack into elves, you just get 10 attacks. So that's, and we're seeing that a lot with the epic heroes. They have a high damage, low volume, and then a high volume, low damage profile, and you just get to pick one. Deadly Demise, it just means when she explodes, she does a mortal wound. Leader means she's going to get to go in a unit, so we'll see what units she can go to. I assume it's just the War Walkers, but she could be able to go into a unit of Battle Sisters. We'll see. While this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes attack, you can reroll that. There it is. So you can reroll hits and wounds. So, and again, we talked about this last night. When a leader is attached to a unit, both the leader and the attached unit combine to form one big unit. So she will always reroll her own hits and wounds while she's attached to a unit, but only while she's attached to a unit because of this first part right here. She has to be leading a unit. Righteous Repugnance once per battle in your command phase. You can use this ability. If it does, until the start of your next command phase, add 3 to the attacks characteristic of Fidelis and Lance of Illumination. So that's pretty spicy, being able to get just like 3 additional attacks, whether you use the strike or the sweep. Like being able to get 8 attacks at that profile is real good, because that's going to wound Terminators on 3s, but it's going to be invuln or die in most situations. All right. Yep. Yep, she can only go in Paragon Warsuits, which I kind of assumed was going to be the interaction. We are going to look at Warsuits. That is one of the units. Your girl, Canoness, I do want to take a look at also. There's so many characters in this codex. Very standard T3, 3 up save, 4 wounds, 1 OC. So, yeah, very standard kind of interaction. Bolt pistol, the Brazier of Holy Fire. It ignores cover. It's 1 shot in Torrent. Okay. She can only shoot it once per battle. The Condemner Bolt Gun, Anti-Psyker, Devastating Wounds, Precision, Rapid Fire. So, and that makes sense. That's not too far off from how it interacted before. Inferno Pistol, Melta 2 Pistol. These got a bit of a nerf, which I can't say they shouldn't have had it, right? Because like they were pretty silly, but now they're just D3, and then within half range they add 2 to the damage. And then Plasma Pistols. So again, like might be worth slapping plasma on some of those things to try to force that kind of like, haha, I'm taking damage. And then the Blessed Blade, yeah, it went from D6 to D3. It's a little rough, but it's one of those where it's like, I can't really argue with it because they were a bit silly en masse. And really, they probably should just have like a flat 3 damage. That's probably without even the Melta profile. They just, or the Melta rule, just give them a flat 3 damage and move on. Blessed Blade, 3 attacks, weapon, so fewer attacks. Strength 6, neg 2, 2 damage. Imagifiers are good again. Junith is good. Canoness is good. Still, Triumph is good. Finally, yeah, we're digging into it right now, Dan. Welcome to the stream, buddy. Blessed Blade going down to 3 attacks makes me big sad. But what was that one thing you could add 1 to the attacks characteristic and the strength and the damage, so that's not bad. Like there's ways to manipulate it. While this model is leading a unit, each time the unit and that you can reroll the hit roll. So while she's in a unit, she'll reroll her own hits and the unit's hits. Once per battle at the start of any phase, this model can use this at the end of. So once per battle, she can get a 2-up invulnerable save, which is hilarious. And then she can take a Null Rod. Models in the unit have a 4-up Feel No Pain against psychic attacks or the Rod of Office. Each time you select the bearer's unit as the target of a stratagem, roll a d6 on a 4+, you gain 1 CP. So again, not bad. If you just get to take either of those and they don't replace weapons, there's no reason not to take one or the other. Let's see. Yep, so if you take a plasma pistol and a power weapon, you can give it the Rod of Office. If it's got a chainsword, you can give it the Brazier or the Null Rod. And you can replace the chainsword with a Blessed Blade power weapon. So if you take the Blessed Blade, you just don't get anything extra. What does her chainsword look like? Is it neg 1? Nope, they're back to 0 AP. I was kind of curious on that. I kind of figured, which the sisters, I think, always had 0 AP chainswords, so that stayed the same. And then she can go with Sacrosanct. So that's probably where I would put her because, again, just because of how I play, I'd probably put her in with Sacrosanct, getting those silly things to reroll hit rolls, and then being able to, like, if you wanted to take the Null Rod, you could. And then the Rod of Office is also good. Like, either one of those is a good take, but I would probably stick her in with Sacrosanct. Although, re-rolling hit rolls could be good on Battle Sisters. It just depends on how they are. It's the same as now. What's the same as now? Sorry. I didn't see that until just now. Palatine, we're going to speed through her while the model is model leading you lethal hits, so that's good. Yeah. Yeah, okay. And I thought that's what you meant, and it's one of those where I had to remember because I've not played, like, I never used chain swords in ninth unless it was like a Space Marine, because, like, I'd rather have a power sword, right? It just makes more sense. Each time this model's unit is selected to fight, you can discard one miracle die. If you do, then until the end of the phase, each time a melee attack made by this model scores a wound, a target number of that attack. If you do, then until each time a melee attack made by this model scores a wound, the target of that. Oh, okay. So, it's okay. Nice. I'll take a look at the Imagifier in just a little bit here. The Palatine's okay. The lethal hits isn't bad. The righteous blows is kind of meh. Let's look at Junith. I've got to fix my Junith. Her flight stand broke. Junith was weird in ninth. Like, there were some lists, especially when Armor of Contempt was around. Like, having Armor of Contempt and then just being able to give, like, all your sisters, your battle sisters, cover, and just having this weird, like, 2-up with cover and Armor of Contempt kind of interaction was really dumb. Yeah, yeah. So she's got a twin linked heavy flamer, so it gets D6 shots, strength 6, neg 1, 1 damage. It does re-roll its wounds, and there's no hit roll, so you don't have to worry about that. And then she's got a mace with 4 attacks. So she looks pretty solid just on her damage output alone. And she's T4 with 6 wounds. She is a leader. And then while this model is leading a unit, each time an attack targets that unit, so she makes a unit -1 to hit, which is pretty good. And if this model is on the battlefield at the start of your command phase, you gain 1 CP. So, wow, she just gives you an additional command point every turn, basically. Yeah, the second book, she was weird, and really, sisters were kind of weird in ninth anyway. Like, their whole interaction, like, because the best sisters lists were uninteractive, right? Like, they were predicated on just sitting in your backfield and not doing much. But no, that's pretty solid. Gaining extra command points. What can she go into, right? Battle Sisters and Sacrosanct makes sense. Um, she looks solid. Have to see where points are, but I would play her. Missionary, which is just like the old chaplains, right? And the priests. I think it's just the priests. What do they do? War hymn. While this model's leading unit melee weapons, sustained hits. So that's pretty solid, depending on what you can put it in. Each time this model makes a melee attack, unless this model's unit is battle shocked, you can reroll the hit roll. So you can put him with Arcoflagellants, which I think is probably going to be your best bet. And then the Novitiates, depending on how they are now, too, right? I can't argue with that. Junith is an exceptional model. And I like that Crusaders are still here. I have no idea what that data sheet looks like. I've never seen anybody actually play them. Uh, all right, here we go. Saint Celestine. I'm pumped. I just the Ardent Blade, which would be Celestine's ranged attack, is still a flamer, strength 6, neg 2. So really solid, actually, given the amount of AP reduction that we've seen. Like, that's pretty good. And then in melee, she gets 5 attacks, strength 6, neg 3, 2 damage with devastating wounds. Blech. She's gross. And then 3 attacks, strength 4, neg 2, 1 damage. So pretty solid, right? That's a good solid melee profile. They deep strike. They have leader. Healing Tears. While this unit contains a Celestine model in your command phase, if this unit is below its starting strength, 1 destroyed model is returned to the unit. So I'm glad that's still there. While this unit contains 1 or more Gemini Superior models, Celestine has a 4+ feel no pain. Yeah. And then the first time this unit's Celestine model is destroyed, Roll a d6 on a 2-up. She's set back up on the battlefield. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's bonkers. Uh, God dang. And then she's a leader. This, yeah. Yeah, she comes back, but if she doesn't die in your command phase, you can put a Gemini superior or Gemini back. And yeah, 10 Zephyrim, like the fact that she can now get attached to Zephyrim or Seraphim is absurd. Uh, good lord. Right, it's not an action. They just come back. And it looks like actions are pretty much gone. And I wasn't opposed to actions in ninth edition. My only issue is that they were very inconsistent from codex to codex. It's one of those where I feel like it was a very big missed opportunity to have some neat interactions in the game, and it just kind of turned into like a one-off gimmick for a handful of books. Yeah, she's wild. She is absolutely wild. The Triumph, we're going to speed through the Triumph, not because I'm not interested, but because it's not a model we see on the table. Oh, good question. Let's double check that, Sam. Uh, oh, while this unit contains a Celestine model in your command phase, one model. You are correct, sir. That is actually really even better then, because now you're putting back your bodyguard unit in your attached unit. That or model in your attached unit. That's super good. Good catch on that. Let's look at the Triumph. 18 wounds. Wow. And I believe. Hey, what's up? More Country Roads. Welcome to the stream. We're just digging into some Sisters of Battle stuff. After we whip through this, we're going to take a look at some Admech stuff. I believe I'd have to double check, but I believe the interaction with like obscuring is no longer predicated on your rules or your wounds. It is predicated on having what is it, the towering or the aircraft keyword. I would have to double check to verify that. Actually, I think I have the rule book up. You're the prettiest model, Dan. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Did I might have closed it out. I don't have it up, so we won't worry about it. But yeah, I think that's the interaction there. While the Adeptus Sororitas unit is within 6 inches of this model, if that unit is destroyed, okay, so she automatically gives you a 6. And because it's an aura, interestingly, if she dies, she gives you a 6 also, because characters still count as being within range of their auras. Censor of the Sacred Rose, while a friendly Adeptus Sororitas unit is within 6 inches of this model, improve the leadership by 1. Nice. While a friendly Sororitas unit is within 6 perform. Okay, so that's really good. You can perform any number of. Yeah, I've also appreciate that the auras actually do different things. Like they're not as generic as they were in ninth. I didn't necessarily hate the core interaction, but again, it goes back into the actions interaction where it was just like inconsistent from codex to codex, right? Like if you are a space marine, I think you had like 2 or 3 data sheets that weren't core, and then the Necrons that released at the same time had 2 or 3 data sheets that were core, and it was just weird because it was just like right. And it was just like a weird interaction because, like, with orcs, my bikes and my squigs were core, but then, like, my def dreads weren't. So I could jump bikes and squigs, but I couldn't jump def dreads, which makes sense. But then only my bikes and squigs got advance and charge, but not my def dreads. It was just like a really inconsistent interaction from codex to codex. And like I said, and I think that's my biggest complaint about how that worked. This is super good. The simulacrum. You've got any number of acts of faith per phase instead of one. While a friendly Sororitas, add one to the attack's characteristics of rapid fire weapons. Holy cow. I don't know how many rapid fire weapons there are because we've just started digging in. While a friendly Sororitas, I assume you get to pick one of these. You can have a 6-up feel no pain or lethal hits. At the start of the battle round, select 2 of the abilities. Wow. Yeah, no, you guys are right. This thing is super good, and there's a good chance you see them on the table. It has leader for whatever reason. What can we attach it to? A Battle Sister squad. That is crazy that you can just give that thing a 10 wound soak for Battle Sisters. I get the feeling she's probably not going to be cheap, right? The Triumph is not going to be cheap. But I would definitely agree with you guys. You'll probably see them on the table finally. We're not going to dig into these guys. We'll just kind of blow past those. Let's take a look at, also just check, towering and aircraft are the only ones that don't get covered. And that's what I thought it was. I didn't think it was predicated on wounds anymore. I think it was just a keyword interaction, which also makes sense because it's just easier for people to understand. Let's look at our base troops here, guys. Battle Sister squads, they move 6, they're T3. So again, not much changes here. Artificer, so this is basically the same. So for those that don't know, rapid fire changed a little bit in how it interacts. Rather than like doubling your shots or whatever, it just adds a number of shots equal to the rapid fire value. So an Artificer Crafted Stormbolter gives you 2 attacks, and then when you're within half range, it just adds 2 to the attacks characteristic. And I know the math comes out the same on this specific gun, but there are guns where it doesn't. Like if you, I think it was Gaskell, gets 6 attacks and then he's rapid fire 3, so he gets 9 within half range. So it's just a slightly different interaction on rapid fire. But that would, like, if you had one of these, like your Dominion squad, I'm not even there yet, but if your Dominion squad is within 6 inches of the Triumph, they would actually go to Rapid Fire 3 instead of Rapid Fire 2, which means you'd get 3 additional shots for being within half range, which would take you to 5 total. So the loadout's pretty much the same. Multi-Melta Strength 9, Neg 4, D6, Melta 2. They are heavy, so if you sit still, you'll add 1 to your hit rolls. They are Ballistic Skill 4 now, which I kind of figured. That is the route a lot of heavy weapons are going, is you just go from Ballistic Skill 3 to Ballistic Skill 4, and then you add 1 to hit rolls for standing still rather than subtracting 1 for moving. So only thing that kills me on this is on the next page. All right, we'll see what that is. Acts of Faith once per battle. After this unit has performed an act of faith, gain 1 miracle dice. So that's awesome, right? Having that cherub is definitely going to be worth it. You can act of faith and then just gain a miracle die. It's not totally different from how it interacted, but it's a little bit different and it's just kind of easier to manage. At the end of the command phase, for each objective marker you control that has 1 or more units from your army with this ability. Yes. So this is very similar to how the Strands of Fate and the Defenders work for Eldar. And that's very good. Being able to just like have a Battle Sister squad on your back objective and just farming miracle dice is very good. I like this. I like it a lot. Each time a unit is destroyed by the bear, every time they kill something, you gain a miracle die. So yeah, they're very good. They've got their 6-up invulnerable save. That's still a thing. Glad to see that. I'm guessing it's only 10 model squads, Sam. That's what I'm guessing before I look. Oh, I called it. Oh, I hate that I called it. And you don't have any options. So you get 1 superior, 9 battle sisters. You don't get to like take a 5-man anymore or a 20-man, right? Like there's no 5 or 20 model units anymore, which yeah, fortunately because of how I play sisters, I run a lot of 5s and 10s just because I wanted more units rather than more models, if that makes sense. But it looks like, generally speaking, a lot of this stayed the same. You can take a chainsword or a power weapon. Battle Sisters bolt gun can replace. Let me check the power weapon real quick. I think it's just 2 attacks, strength 4. Yep, so it's pretty much the same. I know. And I mean, now you just have to take 6 10-mans. And I get, like, your sergeants aren't kind of, like, loaded up that way. And right? Oh no. I'm sure they're still going to be very good. And honestly, I may have some extra superiors that I could just give you, so you can still have your 60 ladies. One battle sister equipped with a bolt gun. Blah 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 blah. Simulacrum. All right. So yeah, no, these look very good. I like the battle sisters. They look very worth. Well, it's a couple things. Uh, I had to allow that, Sam, because you said honkies. Twitch was like, "Hey, this guy's using bad language. Do you want to allow it?" It's yes, it's to stop massive bodyguard squads, but it's also because we're at an index, and it's just a here's what you get in a box. Just kind of play this type of interaction. It may change when the actual codex comes out. It may not. But yeah, I don't disagree that it's also like imagine the triumph of Saint Catherine with 20 battle sisters and just being like, cool, this is where we're at, bro. I do want to quickly glance through these. I just want to see how their weapons interact because I think you get 10. Only the superior can get the power weapon, and then everybody else gets melee weapons, which are just strength 4 and 2 attacks. So they didn't really change that much. It's just when you run Bloody Rose, you get the bonus AP. So you can reroll advance and charge rolls and the simulacrum. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If so, these are also really solid. Um, it might have, because they might have been weapon skill 3. They might have been weapon skill 4 before anyway. I don't remember, but it might have. Battle Sisters, like the Sister Squads, were weapon skill 4. I don't remember on the Novitiates, to be honest with you. But they get to reroll 1s. I agree. I think that it did, Sam. That sounds right. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If your target was within range of an objective marker, you can reroll the hit instead. So again, very solid, very good unit for sending into objectives and trying to just clear them out, especially if it's just like another infantry unit. We're not going to look at Agatha. A Magifier. Litany of Deeds. Each time you gain a miracle dice as a result of... You can reroll. So that's not bad. Stanchion of Holy Martyrs. While this model is leading a unit, models in that unit have a 4-up invulnerable. Now that you say that, I got to go back, Sam. Damn you. So this seems like a really solid... This seems like a really solid ad. The only downside is that... Okay, here we go. Can be attached to a Battle Sister squad even if a Canoness, so you can put it in a Battle Sister squad if there's another leader, Canoness, Palatine, or Junith is in that squad. So that's cool that you can double up on them. And that's what I wanted to know. So now we got to look at Agatha because Sam was like, hey, she's actually kind of cool. Blade of Vigil. While Astrid Thurga is leading a unit, melee weapons equipped by models have the devastating... Okay, yeah, you right. You right. I mean, yeah, Vindicares are going to be better. So far, this edition strikes me as a little bit more Hero Hammer than we've seen in the last couple of editions. So any kind of like precision is going to be beneficial, whether it's a Vindicare or not. Recount the deeds of the saints while Agatha is part of this unit each time is... Hey, that's really good. God dang, Sam, you are right, man. And she can be attached to... Yeah, no, like those are solid. You are 100% correct. Those are solid. Dialogus. While this model is leading a unit, That unit can be selected as the target even if it were battle shocked, so that's actually pretty solid. I'll have to get a hold of one. Yeah. While the model is leading unit, each time this model performs an act of faith, the result of one of the mirror. While this model is leading a unit, each time this model's unit performs an act of faith, the result of one of the miracle dice used in that act of faith is changed to a 6. So that's really good also. God, you guys are right. Like, the characters in this army are really solid. And she can go into something with Canoness Palatine or Junith as long as it's a Battle Sister squad. So yeah, I can't. Man. Well, this model's leading you each time a model. I like that it lends a lot of flexibility. Like, this isn't a deep dive. This is just a quick look. But if I ever did a deep dive, like, there's a lot of different ways you could kind of build this army, and I like that so far. While this model's add one to the wound. Jesus. Add one to the wound roll. Once per battle in the fight phase, this model will use this ability, improve the strength and attacks characteristics of melee. Oh, good lord. What can he go into? So he's probably going into either an Novitiates or Flagellants. I have to look at Crusaders. I've always wanted Crusaders, like, genuinely, but it's one of those, they're like $20 for 2 models, and I think they're resin, so, like, piss off with that. I'll have to figure out some kind of good proxy, like a plastic proxy. Sacrosancts, ranged weapons, we don't really care about. So the halberds are now 2 attacks, strength 5, neg 2, 1 damage. What? Can they go? No, they can't. I had to check that preacher. Right, and that's what I'm seeing is, like, all your units are oh, Crusaders. But a lot of the units look solid. I mean, that's just as bad in my opinion. I guess I'd rather metal models than resin. But again, I'll just find some, like, suitable GW plastic proxy. The Hallowed Mace, 2 attacks. So your Spear of Faithful. While Canoness Palatine or Junith models leading a unit from an attack, subtract 1. So man, I already said I'd want the Canoness in the Sacrosancts, and then I see that they get -1 to wound while the Canoness is in the Sacrosancts, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, that checks out. They're pretty good for sure. I feel like they're a little underwhelming on the melee side, but I think it's less that they're underwhelming and more that they're just like, they're not going to be as diverse as they are in ninth, right? Because you're wounding everything in the game on 5s at worst, and then you have a +1 to wound strat in ninth. So you can really just, like, well, I don't think it worked for them, but you know what I mean. You could just, like, chip a lot of damage. But nah, they're still good. Weapon skill 3, their save characteristic is 3, their 1 wound. It's interesting that their shields don't do anything anymore. Like, all the Marines that have shields get, like, bonus wounds and stuff. So it's interesting that they don't get anything like that. So, all right. Hospitaller, let's see what she does. Let's see. While this model is leading a unit, models get, and the reason I want to see this would hopefully tell me kind of how, hopefully it'll tell me how my Pain Boy interacts a little bit. While this model is leading a unit, models in that unit have a 5+ Feel No Pain ability, so it's no longer an aura, it's only the unit she's in. And at the end of the movement phase, select one. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's rude that you say it like that, Sam. Hurts my feelings. Oh, did we drop? No. We're just kind of getting some lag here. At the end of your movement phase, select one friendly infantry character within 3 inches, and that regains. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Pretty solid. The 5 of Feel No Pain is real good, especially on your 1 wound models. And then where can she go? So if she goes into a battle sister, she can be doubled up with a Canoness, Palatine, or Junith. But no, a 5-up feel no pain. Gotcha. And I haven't looked at like the marine apothecaries that much. Dogmata, boop 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 boop. Add one to the OC, so that's pretty solid. I did want to take a look at these because I have some of these and I heckin' love them, friend. Let's see. They move 8. They're T6. They're 4 wounds, 2 up save, 4 up invuln. This unit is eligible to shoot and charge in a turn in which it fell back. Nice. Yeah, the Dogmata's it's okay. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Bolt pistol. So what do they come with standard? So we can heavy bolter has sustained hits 1. It's 3 attacks. They have 2 of them. I can't remember how this interacts. 1 heavy bolter can be replaced with a flamer or a multi-melta, and any number can have their storm bolters replaced with grenade launchers. Okay. So what do we got? We could take a heavy flamer, which it's okay. Heavy bolters, and then the multi-meltas. And then the grenade launchers are strength 9, neg 2, D3. Man, I'd probably take the grenade launchers. That's just me. But being able to fall back and shoot and charge is money. Like, that's very good. And then their melee, if you take the blade, you get 4 attacks at 622. If you take the mace, you get 3 attacks at 1213. So there's a lot of AP reduction here, which is fair. It's super fair, but they're very good. These look solid. I would definitely try them out on the table. I would have no complaints about them. They're still vehicles. Yeah, it's one of those where they're still vehicles, and if you put like Morven Vol in them, you have a unit that your opponent has to respect. At strength 12, even though it's only neg 1, at strength 12, you're wounding most things. Yep. And you're wounding most things on 3s, maybe 4s. I haven't, there's not a lot out there that's like T11, or T12, but I know there's a little bit. So I feel like these are very good. Repentia was another unit because I love these things. They're some of my favorite models. They're probably my favorite model in the whole Sisters line, and they just play the game I like to play. Yeah, that mace is good, man. They slap. It's hitting on 4s, but you're going to get rerolls if you put Vol in there. So the Repentia Superior and Sisters Repentia. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The Repentia Superior, yeah. There it is. So she was like an optional character, and now she's a sergeant for the squad, it looks like. The Penitent Eviscerator actually stayed the same, which is pretty cool. They still have a 5-up Feel No Pain, 6-up Invuln. While this unit contains a Repentia Superior, each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, you reroll the hit roll, and if it made a charge, you also reroll the wound roll. Woo! Holy cow. So I'd like a 10 mana Repentia, right? You get 1 Superior, 9 Repentia. That's going to be brutal. You're going to reroll the hits, and if they made a charge, you reroll the wounds, and then, yeah, the priest can go in there to give him +1 to wound. I like where your head's at there, Sam. Like, that's going to be brutal. I'll have to see if there's any other things we can do with them. Like, this is one I'm going to need a deep dive into. Crusaders have a 4-up invuln, and power weapon is strength 4, neg 2, 1 damage, special fortitude while a missionary or preacher. 4-up against mortals. Yeah. Yeah, they're meh. If their points are cheap enough, though, they're a pretty solid, like, inexpensive melee unit that you can just throw onto an objective to try to like chip wounds type of thing. I wouldn't expect a lot out of them, but they're not terrible if they're cheap enough. Death Cult Assassin. I didn't. There's a couple Dominions. I don't think they probably changed tons. They have core rules. Scouts 6 inches, so they can move 6 inches pregame, or the transport they are in can move 6 inches pregame. Acts of Faith. What's per battle? Blah, 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 blah. Reroll advance rolls made for this unit, so that's pretty neat. Each time a model, yep, 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 yep. So they still get that. Bolt pistol, bolt gun, melt gun. Yep. Excuse me. So they don't look like they've really changed a ton. Oh, yep. You got to take 10. Oh, wait a second. Stormbolter's assault and rapid fire, so you can still shoot it after advancing. Holy smokes. So man, that's pretty neat how they did that. Those clever, clever people. I don't think the other ones were assault. I think it's specific to the Dominion squad. Well, it's the Artificer one. The Artificer one's 2 damage. It was 2 damage before because it had the strat that did 2 mortals. Um, but yeah, no, that's crazy that they're assault. So you can advance and shoot, and you can just keep going. Seraphim, let's see if they got better because they kind of got whapped pretty hard in ninth. They were like an auto take in eighth, and then they kind of got smacked around a little bit in ninth. Let's see where we're at. Deep Strike, Acts of Faith. During your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, if it's not within engagement range of enemy units, it can make a normal move up to 6 inches. If it does, it can't declare a charge. That's actually pretty solid. Anything that gives you extra movement is good. Like you could bounce them out of cover, shoot, and then bounce them back in type of thing. The Seraphim, so you can take 5 to 10. Seraphim Superior's 2 bolt pistols can be replaced with any of this. And for every 5 models, up to 2 can have their bolt pistols replaced with Inferno or Hand Flamers. That's fair. Man, I honestly think if I take them, I put them with Hand Flamers and not the Inferno pistols. Because each one has 2, right? Yeah. So if you got 2, that's 4 flamers. So you can get 4d6 auto hits plus your bolt pistols. And then you can move them 12, shoot, and then move them 6 again. So even if you're just like getting them. Yeah, and I agree. It's one of those where the Inferno pistols were weird once they lost the extra range strat also. But the flamers I could see being solid, especially the way Overwatch works now. Just having auto hits on Overwatch is going to be helpful. Zephyrim, let's go. The other core of my army. Zephyrim and Repentia. They move 12 T3. I'm sure they probably actually don't change a ton, right? Yeah, they just have 3 attacks, strength 4, neg 2, 1 damage. So it's just power swords or power weapons. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if it made a charge, add 1 to the strength characteristic of this attack. Wow. So they could actually go to strength 5, neg 2, and you can +1 to wound them. So they can go to strength 5, neg 2, +1 to wound, and I don't remember what Celestine did, but she'll do stuff for them. And they reroll advance and charge rolls made for that unit. So those, and they've got a 5 up instead of the standard 6 up invuln. So these things are looking really good. Yes. Yeah. This is wild, man. These still look good. Like these look like something I would still take. I have no complaints. 5 to 10, and I run 10 mans because I'm a clown. What's the Sacred Banner do? Oh, that's what gives you the rerolls. That's right. Retributors, we're not going to dig into them too much. I can't imagine they've changed a ton. Right? That's it. Making Celestine reroll the charge because she's bonkers. Mortifiers, we're just going to do a quick glance at them. They've got a 6-up invul and 5-up feel no pain. Each time it makes a charge move. I'm more interested in the Penitent engines because I have a ton of those. The Buzz Blades, real good. Actually, let's just jump to those right now. They're T6, 5 wounds. They don't have the invuln. They do have the feel no pain. They have a base save of 4 up, so that kind of didn't change. They do have Axe of Faith, so you can miracle die them now. Gotcha. This unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. The Flamers are Assault, so you can advance and shoot your Flamers every turn. You can take Buzz Blades or Flails, or 2 Buzz Blades or 2 Flails. Like, you can mix and match. The Buzz Blades are going to be 4 attacks, Strength 10, Neg 3, 2 damage. So I'm probably still taking the Buzz Blades. Like, if we're being honest. I want that kind of like can opener ability. And 2 Buzz Blades just reroll their wounds because they're twin linked. So these actually look pretty solid. Being able to advance, shoot, and charge still. They move 8 inches. Like, I see Penitent Engines being pretty good as long as their points are within a reasonable limit. Boop, 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 boop. Let's check out the Exorcist real quick. Tanks look like they're just better this edition. It moves 10, T10, 11 wounds, OC3. Okay, so it does have indirect fire. I kind of thought it would. It's blast, it's heavy, it ignores cover. Indirect fire, 3d6, strength 5, 0 AP. So that's the conflagration rockets. The heavy missile launcher is d6 plus 2 heavy indirect fire, strength 10, neg 2 d6. So this is also really good. Man, yeah. I feel like Exorcists are worth putting on the table right now. D6 plus 2 shots, ignoring line of sight, not having to spend CP to do it. Axe of Faith, 6 up invuln. Sororitas infantry unit is within 6 inches. Nice. Yeah, so it's going to get +1 to hit if it stands still. And if it takes any damage, it's going to get +1 to hit. Right, and hitting on 3s when you're indirect. Because, again, you'll get that -1 ballistic skill, +1 to hit. So, yeah, those look very good. Like, the Exorcists look pretty solid. Again, points depending. I like it. And then the Castigator, we're just going to do a quick glance through here because it's the same chassis. Yeah, we're not digging into that right now. Rhinos, firing deck 2. So you can put your 10 Battle Sisters in there. If you have 2 multi-meltas, they get to shoot out of your Rhino. That's pretty good. The bearer can only shoot with this weapon once per battle. Armor tracks, Facts of Faith, and then it self-repairs. So it's just a Rhino. Makes sense. Immolators. Now, these are like a staple in my armies and lists. They're T10, 11 wounds. In your shooting phase, after this model is shot, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks until the end of the phase. Each time a friendly model that disembarked from this transport, you can reroll the wound roll. Those are pretty good. Yeah, no. If you shoot something and hit it, whatever got out of it gets to reroll wound rolls against it. And then it still just gets its twin link multi-melta. It's less shots, but you're re-rolling wounds. Or twin linked heavy immolation flamers. And the flamers I think are going to be very worth it now. Like strength 6, neg 1, ignore cover, torrent, 18 inch. Like I would probably go with the flamers. Yep, we're getting ready to look at that. If this model has a transport capacity of 6 infantry models, it can't transport Jump Pack or the Triumph. At the start of the declare battle formation step, you can select 1 Battle Sisters, 1 Dominion, or 1 Novitiate Squad. If you do, one of these units must start. Oh, so it's like the Venoms. So that tells me that Cabalites are probably only going to come in 10-mans because the Venoms have a very similar interaction. But man, yeah, that's really cool. I like it a lot. I don't know what that is. Okay. Did we? Oh, we're lagging again. I'm sorry, or at least we are on my end. Blah 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 blah. No, I like that a lot. That's pretty cool. Let's check out the Arcoflagellants. we're almost through this. This has been a long stream. We're going to fly through Admech. How do battle squads fit? Okay, so I assume, Alan, what you're asking me is, so what you can do is if you've got a battle sister squad and it's a 10 model squad, when you declare your transports, you can break that squad in half, and then half of it can go on the transport, and then half of it can go in the table or on another transport, etc. And then if you have a character, you can actually break it in half plus the character to put it in, and that's how you get to the 6. So that's how that's going to interact. It's basically like the Space Marine Combat Squad ability. You just get to break your squad in half, splitting them up however you want to, and then putting 5 in the transport and 5 on the table. Does that answer your question, Alan? 4 attack, strength 5, 0 AP. So those are neat. I don't know that they're good. They're neat. Okay. Wow, we actually went through that whole mess. So when we do Admech, we're not going to spend as much time on Admech. We're going to dig through. Yep. Yep. We're going to dig through some of it. There's a few units, like I really want to look at Castellans, and I really want to look at a couple other things. And then obviously there's some AdMech players out there, so if there's units you want to dig into, just let me know. This is my first time looking at it outside of the faction focus, so again, I have no expectations. I do know that the army rule is pretty solid, again, from the faction focus. At the start of your battle round, you can select one of the imperatives below until the end of the battle round. That imperative is active for your army, and all units from your army that have imperatives gain the relevant abilities. So the big thing to point out here is this is very different from like Space Marines and their combat doctrines, because you're not limited. You got it, buddy. We will look at some Rust Stalkers. You are not limited on how many times you can use each imperative. I so and it's funny, Sam, because like I love this army, the aesthetics of it. Like it is one of the coolest looking armies. But I just like every time I've put them on the table, it has been such a just like feel bad shit show that I'm just like I don't play them often because like I still want my opponent to have fun. And generally speaking, that has not been the interaction when I've used my AdMech. um, So anyway, you can use these imperatives, right? And you can just use the same one over and over and over. So you could have ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit have the heavy ability, and then each time a ranged attack targets this unit, if this unit is within your deployment zone, worsen the AP characteristic by 1. You could sit in that imperative the whole game, or you could alternate them, or you could sit in the other one the whole game. Doesn't matter. Ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit have the assault ability, and each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, if the target of the attack is within your opponent's deployment zone, improve the armor characteristic by 1 AP. So it's one of those where it's pretty cool. You get to alternate, do whatever you want with them, and it's the whole game. You don't have to worry about it. So it's very helpful. The detachment rule is a little rough. It's weird. Again, it's one of those. I don't know if it's good or not. I don't know if it's bad. It's just a weird interaction. At the start of your first battle round, for each enemy unit with your opponent's deployment zone, your opponent can decide whether they will take cover or stand firm. If they take cover, until the end of the battle round, that unit is battle shocked. And if a unit stands firm, roll 1d6 for that unit. On a 3 plus, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So it's real weird. Like at the start of the first battle round, I look at you and I say, hey man, do you just want to automatically battle shock or do you want to take a D3 mortals? And because it's the first turn, most people are probably just going to take the battle shock because the only way that's really going to affect them turn 1 is they can't use stratagems on their units. So there's no reason for the most part to not just be like battle shock me unless there's some stratagem that you absolutely need to have go off. And then for the rest of the game, you roll a d6 for each enemy unit within your opponent's deployment zone, and on a 3-up, they just suffer a mortal wound. Right? Because you're just making them better. But that one's interesting too, because it's if they don't leave their deployment zone, you got the potential to do damage to them. So it's one of those where it's weird. It's interesting because it's like trying to promote your opponent to interact with you, which is good, but it's such a weird way to do it. Admech unit from your army excluding vehicles was selected to target. You can make a non-vehicle unit -1 to wound. At the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a ranged attack that targets an enemy unit, add 1. You can make a non-vehicle unit +1 to wound in the shooting phase, which is really good. I can understand why it's not vehicles, because again, like I do love my Castellans. 1 tech priest model from your army and 1 objective marker within 24 inches. Roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within range of that objective marker. On a 4+, that unit takes a mortal wound and a battle shock test. I'm not enjoying how many things are just like take a mortal wound. I know it's a die roll. It is not my favorite mechanic, but 1 Scutari unit from your army that advances this turn until the end of your turn, your unit is eligible to declare a charge, even though, okay. So you've got advance and charge on 1 Scutari keyword unit. And you can only use it if the Conqueror Imperative is active for your army, which is the one that gives your guns advance anyway. Rad Cohort. Vengeful Fallout. This looks like a shoot on death. And 1 Scutari unit from your army is selected as target. You can give them a 4-up invulnerable, but only if the Protector Imperative is active for your army. So that's interesting. You've got some strats that are predicated on what is active for your army. Let's see. Enhancements. Adeptus Mechanics. While the bearer is leading a unit, ranged weapons equipped by models on that unit have a sustained hits 1. So that's really good. This is a fairly shooty army unless you play like I do, and so like giving your gun 6s explode, really good. Let's see, model only add 3 to the attacks characteristic of the bearer's ranged weapons. In addition, the bearer's ranged weapons have anti-infantry and anti-monster. Oh, that's really good depending on what kind of ranged attacks you can put on things. But having anti-infantry, anti-monster, and especially anti-monster, because I haven't seen a lot with that. So automatically wounding infantry on 2s and monsters on 4s is bonkers. And especially if you can find one that has devastating wounds already, you can just be like, mortal wound gun, haha. Admech model only while the bearer's leading a unit. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. All right, let's dig into some of these data sheets. I'm not going to waste time on the jets. I'm sorry if you guys want to look at them. It's one of those where I'm not sold that aircraft are going to be super viable anyway this edition. And I'd rather get into things that we all really want to see. Like, let's look at Belisarius Call real fast. He's T8 with 10 wounds now. He's a thick boy. He's got Blast Melted D3, and then it's D3 attacks, Strength 14, Neg 4, 3 damage. Huh. That's actually pretty solid. See, and this is how Inferno Pistols probably should have interacted. Just a flat 3 damage. Like, this is solid. This is a good gun. Arc Scourge, anti-vehicle, devastating wound. So here's the mortal wound gun, right? It just does mortal wounds. He gets 4 extra attacks. And then he gets 2d6 Mechadendrites. And then he gets 4 attacks with his axe. And then select one of his canticles to be active. So he can have an aura while a friendly Admech unit is within 6 inches of this model. Each time it makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. Remember, that does affect him. He's always within range of his own auras. Another aura, you can reroll Battle Shock, and then you can have a 6-inch aura of Stealth. So you can either give yourself -1 to ranged attacks, reroll Battle Shocks, or reroll hit rolls of 1. All of those are pretty solid. Not yet, and it's just because we're index. That may change when codexes come out, but in Index, I think it's just kind of like a free-for-all, man. Like, go ham, play what you want. While this model is within 3 inches of one or more friendly AdMech units, he's got the lone operative. So, and if you don't know, lone operative is basically you can't target him with attacks unless you're within 12 inches of him. So it's almost like the old screening rules. He has to be within 3 inches of another unit. But then if I'm within 12, I still get to target him. And then he heals himself. So he looks solid. I don't have anything to compare him to, but he looks solid. Let's see. Electro Priests, 3 attack, strength 5, 0 AP, 1 damage, sustained hits. While a character model is leading this unit each time, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So that's actually pretty good. And then their guns are basically the same, strength 5. So these actually look pretty solid. Not amazing, but just good, consistent damage dealers, especially against like infantry. Datasmith. I do want to see what he does now. In your command phase, if this model is leading a Castellan's robots unit, it can set that unit's battle protocol. If it does, take a leadership test, for this model. If that test is passed, then the unit enters a protocol of your choice from those listed below. And it remains, okay, blah, 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 blah. So if you go to the Protector protocol, you add 2 to the attacks characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by Castellan robots. I bet, Sam, I bet Castellans are still going to be dumb, buddy. Add 2 to the attack characteristics of melee weapons, or add 1 to the toughness characteristic. Yeah, no, I bet that Castellans are still going to be kind of dumb. Hey, let's find out right now. Yeah, let's double check that real quick, Alan. But yeah, in your command phase, you take a leadership test and then enter the protocol. So yeah, it's fixed. All right, so let's look at Castellans. They move 6. They're T9. They're 7 wounds. So they're about where I expected them to be for a defensive profile. 2 up save. Let's see. Heavy Phosphor Blaster. Let's see what their base loadout is real quick. Any number of models can have their twin Castellan Fist replaced with one of the following: 1 blaster, 1 fist, or 1 blaster, 1 close combat weapon. And then it can have their... So you can replace your flamer with another blaster. So you either have 2 fists, 1 fist, 1 blaster, 1 twin blaster. Okay, cool. So the Phosphor Blaster is 611, and it ignores cover. The Castellan Phosphor Blaster is 602 and ignores cover. And then the twin one is just... Okay, so the fist one is 2 damage. The pintle-mounted one is 1 damage. Let's make sure that's right. Yes, that is right. And my favorite loadout is Pintle Phosphor, Fist Phosphor, Castellan Fist. And then the Castellan Fists are Strength 12, Neg 2, 3 damage, Weapon Skill 4. But we can add 2 attacks to any of this. So, like, let's jump back up here. In the Protector Protocol, you add 2 to the attacks characteristics of all ranged weapons. I mean, that's fair, Alan. I feel like that's fair, because I was running some pretty thick units, and 2 units of 4 is still pretty gross. So if we do that, right, we have 5 2 damage shots and 5 1 damage shots with my normal loadout. And then we still have 4 fists. And then if we get into melee, we can just 2 extra attacks on the fists. So we can have 6 fist attacks. And then if we end up going twin link fist, we just re-roll wounds. Like, these things are really good. And while a Datasmith model is leading this unit, that model has a 4-up Feel No Pain. So the Datasmith will get a Feel No Pain while he's in the Castellan robot unit. And then each time a ranged attack. So the twin linked fist is just you re-roll your wounds. That's all that changes. So you either have one fist that doesn't re-roll wounds, or you use two fists. You get the same number of attacks, but you re-roll your wounds. So we're going back to the older style twin linked rule is all that's happening. Let's see. Each time a ranged attack is allocated to a robot model in this unit on an unmodified saving throw of 6, so they still reflect damage back. So yeah, buddy, Castellan's still looking pretty good. Points are really going to determine where they're at. If they are like if their points are sitting where they're at now presently, they're going to be very nice, very nice. The regular melee electro piece, 2 attacks, strength 6, neg 1, 2 damage. So yeah, pretty solid still. Yes, yes. Iron Strider. These are the melee ones, if I remember right. Nope, these are the shooty ones. Move 10. They're T7 now, so again, about what I expected. 3+ save. They have a twin-linked autocannon, so they get 2 shots with sustained hits. Strength 9, neg 1, 3 damage. Or 1 shot, strength 12, neg 3, d6 +1. But they are re-rolling wounds, and they have sustained hits. So not a bad interaction. I think the last cannons are very good. I think the autocannons are a lot better than they used to be. I think you'll see some autocannon play. If this unit is eligible to shoot and charge in a turn in which it fell back, and you can re-roll, okay. Each time you select this unit as the target of a stratagem on a 5+, you gain 1 CP. So I think these are still going to be good, right? They look pretty solid. My boys, the Cataphren Breachers. All right, Alan, let's see if I was ahead of my time. All right. Their movement is 5, their toughness is 7. So these went from T5 to T7. They're 3 wounds. Good lord. Heavy arc rifle is anti-vehicle 4+, rapid fire 2. So they get 2 attacks, but within half range they'll get 4 attacks. So within 18 inches. Their strength 8, neg 3, 3 damage. And they're anti-vehicle 4. Yeah. So I think the chickens are going to be pretty good. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think there's probably going to be some better options for shooty units, but we'll see. The 10-inch mobility is what's going to help you because a lot of this army is not super mobile. Yeah, Sam, these things look super dumb, and I'm so glad I built them the way that I did, buddy. Um, so you'll get 2 shots, blah, 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 blah. You could take the torsion cannon. It's anti-infantry. But I think the arc rifle is still just the way to go. It's, you know, slightly less shots, but it's a more versatile weapon. You're wounding most infantry on 2s or 3s, and for a lot of infantry, it's going to be invuln or die. That's true. You know, they're going to struggle with terrain, but with the way terrain has changed, they'll at least be able to claim cover. Yes, and I agree. Like, so I love breachers, and I built them with the hydraulic claw and the arc rifle because to me that's always just the best loadout. And I feel like it just didn't change. Like, it's only 2 attacks, but it's strength 8, neg 2, 3 damage. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. While it's within 6 inches of one or more battle line units, you reroll the hit roll instead. So there's a lot of efficiency that you're going to be able to get out of them too. Like, yeah, these things look super good. Hopefully destroyers are next because those are also funny. And they're still 3 to 6. And they're chunky, man. They're going to be hard to shift. They only have a 2-up save or 3-up save, but they get to claim cover, and now they're infantry instead of counting as bikers, which is important. These look good. Cataphren destroyers. Each time you target this unit with a fire Overwatch stratagem, hits are scored. So they hit on 5s with the Overwatch strat. The plasma. So it's just a flat 4 shots now instead of D6, which I can't complain. Like, it's more consistent. The grav cannon is anti-vehicle too, so that's not bad. Like, the grav cannon's almost a better take than the plasma right now, but I think I'm not disappointed in having plasma. Right? Dude, these things so good. The Dune Crawler, I do want to see this. This is such a cool model. It's one of my favorites from this army. Let's see. Let's see what its base loadout is first. This model's a red. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Eradication Beamer, Doomcrawler legs, and you can replace it with any of these, and you can give it a stubber. Or, okay, cool, cool, cool. So the heavy stubber, the Cognis heavy stubber's rapid fire 3, sustained hits 1. So I feel like that's actually, like, the stubbers are worth it now. Just because with the reduction of AP, and you can't get cover for 3+ saves, right? Unless it's -1 AP, means Marines are going to have a 3-up save against it. So it's going to be some nice, like, anti-Marine, just chip wounds type of thing. The Eradication Beamer, you either get Blast, Sustained Hits, D3. So again, Sustained Hits is extra hits equal to the sustained hits number. So a critical hit will net you D3 additional hits. So that means you're going to get 2 to 4 hits on a hit roll of 6. It's D6 attacks with Blast, and it's Strength 9, -2, 2 damage. It is Ballistic Skill 4. And I think that's kind of like how we're kind of toning down Admech shooting a little bit. Is you're going to see a little bit more ballistic skill 4, and then if you take the focus beamer, it's strength 9, -3, 3 damage, but it's shorter range. So it just gets an additional pip of AP and an additional pip of damage. Now the neutron laser is 2 shots, strength 16, -4, D6 +1, and it's heavy, so you can get it hitting. Yep, yep, and it's heavy, so you can get it +1 to hit. The Icarus array is just anti-fly 4+, which is funny because that's not anti-vehicle or anti-aircraft. That's anti-fly. So if I remember correctly, that's also just like jump pack troops. So it's funny. It's real funny. This can be moved over terrain features that are 4 inches of. Oh, that's cool. So you can move over terrain features 4 inches or smaller as if they weren't there. If you give it the data tether, you can on a 5-up gain a CP when use a stratagem for it, or you can give it smoke launcher so you can pop smoke on it. They have a 4-up invuln, a 2-up 4-up. That's bonkers. So these actually look really good with 11 wounds in T10. We're gonna kind of speed through these. Let's take a look. These are cool. This is one of those units that I just love the aesthetics of. Let's see. The Raiders are move 12 inches, T4, 2 in, blah, 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 blah. So they've got a Devastating Wounds pistol and then a Devastating Wounds carbine. And I think the pistol's just on the sergeant. And then the Cavalry, Saber, and Clawed Limbs. Once per turn, when an enemy unit ends a. Stop it. So they've got a 9-inch pregame move. And then once per turn, when an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches of this unit, if that unit is not within engagement range, you can make a normal move up to D6 or make a normal move up to 6, provided that every model in this unit ends that move wholly within 6 inches of one or more friendly Adeptus Mechanicus battle line units. Yeah. They look solid. They're going to be kind of more of a finesse unit, it looks like, to be honest with you. Kind of like a utility point scoring unit. They're not going to be a big damage dealer. Like, the guns aren't terrible, but I think they're more of a sneak onto objectives or, like a finesse movement kind of unit. And then the Sulphur Hounds. Are they the ones that have an actual melee profile? Or was it the other one? Twin phosphor, sulfur breath. Yep, that was the other one. Okay. So these boys have twin phosphor and sulfur breath. Okay, so let's look at that. Twin phosphor pistols. So strength 4, 0 AP, 1 damage. It's 2 attacks, and they're twin linked. And then the sulfur breath is just a strength 3, neg 1 flamer that ignores cover. And it's pistol, so you can shoot it while you're engaged. And then, okay, this unit ends its charge move. Yeah, there's just like do mortals on the charge kind of thing. I feel like the other ones are just going to be a little bit better just because of that extra interaction in your opponent's turn. Could be wrong, but I do kind of get that impression. Servitors, they're servitors. Infiltrators, so we're almost there, Alan. We're getting to the infiltrators and then the rust stalkers probably. You know what? I just realized something. Hey, sorry YouTube chat. I wasn't monitoring it and I'm kind of a poo butt. Uh Yeah, it does look like a lot of mortals are coming up in 10th. Like, it just seems like there's going to be a lot all over the place. Let's see, ranged weapons on the infiltrators. So they've got the flechette blasters. These are pretty standard. The taser goat sustained hits 2. So each hit roll, each critical hit counts as 2 additional hits. So 3 total hits. And then power weapons. While they have infiltrators and they have stealth. And infiltrators is just like the forward deploy. Stealth is -1 to hit against shooting attacks. They do have the imperatives, so they'll get the imperative bonus. Neurostatic interface. While an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this unit, subtract 1 from their battle shock tests. If they're within, if the rust stalker or if the infiltrators are within 6 inches of a battle line unit, they subtract 2 instead. So there's a little bit of incentive for taking battle line units. And you can either take stub carbine and power weapon or flechette blaster and taser goad. So the stub carbine is 3 attack, strength 4, 0 AP. Okay. I personally think the power weapon is still the way to go. I know you have the potential for a lot more hits, but I'd rather have the AP. I'd rather make sure those wounds go through if I have that option. Again, there's probably some math on there that says you could cheese it to where the taser goads are going to be better. Now the rust stalkers, these things were the bee's knees. They've got transonic blades, devastating wounds, and precision. 4 attacks, strength 4, neg 1, 1 damage. Gross. And then the cord claw is anti-infantry 3 plus, devastating wounds, and precision. Cool, man. Here's my mortal wound sword into your infantry units. I assume that's probably a sergeant loadout. And then the razor and cord claw is anti-infantry precision. So let me see how this interacts. So any number of ruststalkers have their razor and cord claw replaced with blades. So they have the razor and cord claw base, or they could take blades. And then these, yeah, the sergeant gets the other. And then let's see. Add 1 to advance a charge rolls made by this unit while it's within 6 inches of blah blah blah. Okay. So yeah, these still look solid. They have stealth. They don't These look solid, man. Like Alan, I don't think you're going to be disappointed, buddy. I think these look very very good. They look very workable. The -1 to hit against shooting is good, and then the anti-infantry or the devastating wounds and the precision is going to be good, or the anti-infantry and precision is going to be good. Either one of those are going to be good loadouts, and it lends them to a little bit different role. So you're not going to just see people using them all the same. Boop 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 boop. Marshals. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Bam, bam. Let's take a look. I think Rangers were part of the faction focus, so we're not going to spend a ton of time. They were. We're not going to spend a ton of time on them. We'll just kind of blow over those. The Vanguards, or were these the ones that were? No, the other ones were. While an enemy unit that isn't a vehicle is within 3 inches of this unit, subtract 1 from the OC. So that's pretty solid. And then each time you select the bearer's unit as the target of a stratagem on a 5-up, and then ranged weapons, you can ignore cover. Pretty good. Let's look at the disintegrator. That had the indirect fire gun. Strength 7, neg 2, 1 damage. So it actually doesn't look like it's changed a ton, except it is ballistic skill 4, so you're going to be hitting on 5s. Yeah, Admech. So, and Admech's looking pretty good. They look like they've got some silly things, and there's some pretty interesting interactions. It's not quite as layered as it was in previous editions, but they do look pretty solid. You won't have to sit through a 30-minute command phase, so that's a plus. Broad spectrum data tether, yeah. Each time this model makes an attack with its energy cannon, if it targets an infantry unit, add 1 to the hit roll. Each time it makes an attack against a monster or vehicle with a Ferromite cannon, add 1 to the hit roll. Okay, so if you take the Ferromite cannon, I assume it's an option. Yep. If you take the Ferromite cannon, it's +1 to hit against monsters or vehicles. And if you take the energy cannon, it's +1 to hit against infantry. And again, I like that. I like that you can kind of specialize these tanks to be anti-infantry or anti-vehicle. That's pretty good. I have no complaints there. And then that's just the transport. Does the transport units can disembark from this transport after it has advanced? Units that do so count as having made a normal move that phase and cannot declare a charge in the same turn, but otherwise act normally. Okay, so that's actually pretty cool. You can advance and disembark. Does it have firing ports? It does not. I'm not surprised. Here we go. These are the melee dudes. They've got the Serpentia, the Giselle. They look okay. Not anything that I'm just like, oh, these are amazing. All right, Tech Priest Dominus. Let's see what he... Volkite Blaster, devastating wounds. Already, first guy we look at, I find one with devastating wounds for whatever that enhancement was. That gives him everything else. I forget what it was, but like, cool. First character gun I look at outside of the Datasmith. Lord of the Machine Cult. While this model is leading a unit, models in that unit have a 5-up Feel No Pain. If it's Electro Priest, they have a 4-up Feel No Pain instead. That's pretty spicy. At the start of the fight phase, Walker 2. Go back up there. Anti-Walker 2. Interesting. Yeah, good call, man. That's funny, actually. Like, I can... That I missed that. Thank you, Sam. Because that's actually makes them pretty good. Like, you can slam them into dreadnoughts and stuff and just be like, I'm wounding you on 2s. And with sustained hits, like, that could get a little silly. 5-up Feel No Pain. If that unit has Electro Priest keyword, the model's in a 4-up at the start of the fight phase. You can select one enemy vehicle unit within engagement range of this model's unit and roll d6 on a 4+. That enemy's unit suffers d6 more. Yep, here we go. Okay. So if you get his unit into engagement with a vehicle on a 4+, that vehicle takes a d6 mortals. And then he can go in Electro Priest. He can go in Breachers. Okay. That's pretty good. I can give those Breachers a 5-up Feel No Pain, and then we can try to do some mortal wounds as we charge them into vehicles. That's funny. I think it's funny. What does the Engine Seer do? While he's within 3 inches of a vehicle, he has the Lone Operative. Select one model within You can heal a model. If it's a vehicle, you can give it a 4-up invulnerable save. Okay. Wow. Holy cow. So you can give one vehicle model a 4-up invuln. You can heal it D3 wounds. That's actually pretty good. If this model is destroyed. Okay. And then he can go into the same type of stuff. They have so many characters. It's a lot like digging through sisters. While this model is so we can give something lethal hits, which is also really good. I would definitely consider that. Oh, look, another devastating wounds weapon for whatever that enhancement was. Once per battle, at the start of any phase, this model can use this ability until it does. All models in its unit have a 4-up invulnerable save. Once per battle, you can give any unit it's attached to a 4-up invuln. Again, like super good. I don't think it's bad at all. You've got a lot of options here to pick and choose. While this model is leading a unit, add one to the objective control characteristic. That's pretty solid. Enemy units that are set up on the battlefield. So he's got the 12-inch, no deep strike. And then that's it. Holy cow, that was a long one, guys. So unless you have any questions for me, YouTube or Twitch, or anything you want to see specifically, we're going to call it here because I think we've been at this for almost 2 hours. It's been a long one. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me and going over all of this with me. You guys have been great. Again, big shout out to all the new followers we got yesterday and today. I appreciate all of you. I do have a YouTube channel, so if you're on Twitch, I do regular YouTube videos as well. It's just Phoenix Gaming Space. You can find me. Definitely hit a sub because I do a lot of how-to videos too, where I break down some of the more complex interactions in the game and try to make them easier for people to understand. Outside of that, I'm not seeing anything in the chat about wanting anything specific, so I'm gonna call it here. You guys have a great day. I will have a video on the fight phase coming out in the next few days. Take it easy, guys.